What's something that's not right about your body, but not serious enough to go to a doctor about? I can crack my big toes endlessly and it drives me nuts because I'll sit there trying to get the crack that fixes it, but sometimes it doesn't come. I guess it's an old thing that it drives me crazy to just leave it alone while it's still capable of cracking. You know that little flap anchoring your tongue to the bottom of your mouth? Mine's abnormally short, so I can't stick my tongue out as far as the average person. Technically, it was a doctor who told me I had that in the first place. I hadn't ever noticed it on my own, and they were trying to examine my throat for unrelated reasons and were getting annoyed that I wouldn't stick my tongue out farther as instructed. They eventually realized it wasn't just non-compliance and diagnosed the issue, then just kind of put up with a suboptimal throat view. But it's not what I was there for, plus they said corrective surgery is an option and I've never cared enough to follow up on that. So I'm counting it.
Hey guys, much like you, I love reading people's stories on Ask Reddit. Unfortunately, there's a lot of weird middle school level, just thought experiment type hypotheticals like nice try Baskin Robbins. I don't find this compelling, so that's why I've made it my mission to trawl and crawl through Ask Reddit and find the very best content and put it in your ears. That's why I'm begging you, like and subscribe. If there's anything I can do to help you out, give you the kind of content that you crave to help you get through your workday, let me know in a comment, but please like and subscribe.
I experienced something that's called exploding head syndrome, something that is much less severe than the name might imply. Basically, sometimes, right as I'm on the edge of sleep, I'll hear a loud auditory hallucination that jolts me back awake. Pretty rare though, only happens to me maybe once a month. There was a guy who was walking home and felt something hit his head. He assumed it was a falling brick. Years later, he hit his head again and got an X-ray. It revealed a bullet lodged in his skull, stopping just barely short of the brain. The earlier incident must have been a ricochet or a stray shot fired from too far away. The doctors left it as is because adequate scar tissue had already grown around the bullet. The texture of the skin on my right palm changed after I was sick back in March. Sometimes it's bubbly and really itchy, sometimes it looks just really tight and glossy, and sometimes it's so dry that the skin is cracking up. I can definitely see a difference between the right and the left one. The little roads, fingerprints on the palm, on my right palm aren't as visible anymore. I used to have a hedgehog named Velcro. It let him run around on my bed. One morning I slid out of bed and got a sharp pain in my left ass cheek. I walked to the bathroom and saw that I had a half-inch of quill lodged firmly in my haunch. I pulled out what I could and thought I got it all. It wept a few times and eventually healed. It'd been 20 years, and I still have a scab on my ass that falls off once a month, and comes back in a few days. I can feel Therese something deep under the skin, but because of the bad angle, Therese no way I can take care of it without a dermatologist's help. I have a singular, white eyelash on one of my eyes that grows really quickly and gets so long it'll get in my actual eye, and I need to cut it every couple of months to keep it short. Continuing on the topic of hair, all over my body I have hair that have multiple hairs growing out of one follicle. These hairs are also super easy and painless to pull out. It's so weird. Yep. My left knee and left elbow. Both had dislocation injuries. I can tell about 2 days before the weather is going to turn to shit. I remember one day I was complaining about my knee aching, and said, "Oh, we're gonna have a storm in a few days." And he looked at me like I was crazy, pulled the weather up on his phone and was like, "This says it's going to be sunny all week." 2 days later a tornado hit our town. I'm like a chubby Great Value Shakira, these joints don't lie. I had an extra set of wisdom teeth that were hidden in behind that weren't picked up by x-rays. The dentist only found them when doing a routine extraction of my normal wisdom teeth. They were like tiny baby teeth that weren't fully developed. The dentist said that he'd never seen that before. He wasn't a young guy either. "Do you have access to a black light or Woods lamp?" I'm pretty pale, but I was noticing blotches on my skin that were paler. I thought I just applied sunscreen unevenly on my hands and cheeks, but eventually I went to a doctor and they shined a black light on the affected areas. The areas without pigment stood out significantly compared to my normal skin.
Do you have any idea how convenient it is to use a Keurig machine for brewing coffee or tea? Personally, I gave up coffee a long time ago, but I was able to get a great, delicious cup of coffee in just seconds with no cleanup, no extra work, using a Keurig machine and a K-cup. And now I use my Keurig machine to brew tea, loose leaf tea, every day that I drink. And I also use it to make oatmeal and, anything else that you can put hot water into. So if you don't have a Keurig machine in your house, you're missing out. try my affiliate link below in the description of the video, and you too can enjoy a great cup of coffee in seconds any time of day.
I have a bifid uvula, looks like a little upside down heart that's hanging in the back of your mouth. I never had any problems from it, and it definitely wasn't caused by any of the things listed in the article I linked, but there it is. Funny thing is, my twin has a normal uvula, and we're identical twins. Keratin. The follicle cells in that spot in your body are producing keratin in overdrive, so it comes out harder than other hairs or has an odd texture. More or less harmless, but keep an eye on it in case that patch of skin ever gets darker. Skin mutations have a funny way of becoming cancerous, or even considered precancerous, more often than not, but if they're caught early they're significantly less likely to cause major problems down the line. This comment was not meant to freak people out. Just having these keratin overdrive spots doesn't make them inherently cancerous, but if your skin starts to change color, texture, starts bleeding in that spot, or the skin starts flaking, then go to the doctor. As with any odd skin changes, and as a general rule of health, it's important to be aware of new conditions and much better if checked early and often. I have a minor issue in my right knee, a third, but tiny, nipple under my normal sized right one, which is slightly higher placed than the one on my left, asymmetrical abs, and a slightly blurry vision in my left eye. Not necessarily wrong, but weird, I guess. Both my girlfriend and I have this. It happens to us probably 2 to 3 times a year. We dated for 6 years before it came up in conversation. We looked it up and it's actually pretty rare. The weirdest part for me is what the noises sound like. They don't sound like anything from this world. And they're so loud. But loud from the inside, if that makes any sense. Always scares the fuck out of me. Really though, not a problem I would ever see a doctor for. It's one of the most minor inconveniences in my life. I got a concussion early January this year and I still don't feel the same 11 months later. No doctors could do anything about it, as it's just post-concussion syndrome and it's somewhat common for it to affect people for a year or more after. AMP, X200B. Thanks everyone for all your concern and your suggestions. I sympathize with your stories, and hope those of you who still have lingering issues feel better soon. For those asking, I feel better than before. Nothing too scary, it was a mild concussion. I'm mostly dealing with mild insomnia, brain fog, and mood issues and a few other things. On my bad days when symptoms flare up more, I just have to remind myself to take a lot of breaks. I have Raynaud's disease. It's a rare disorder of the blood vessels, commonly in fingers and toes, but also can happen on ears, nose, or lips. It causes the blood vessels to narrow when you are cold and can happen if you're stressed. When this happens, the blood can't get to the surface of the skin and the affected areas turn white and blue and making them numb. Hurts like heck. No cure, just have to prevent yourself from getting too cold, like wear gloves or have the hand warmers with you. AMP, X200B. Based on the responses, it doesn't look like it's that rare after all. I have a catch in my throat when I breathe. If I don't hit that catch, I feel like I haven't gotten enough air. This means I take huge, deep breaths all the time, and it gets even worse with exercise. Doc says it ain't asthma, and he can't do anything about it, so I just gave up on finding an answer. I'm only 23 and go through that same hell every day. Turns out I have B12 and vitamin D deficiency, and am depressed. Obviously I'm not trying to normalize depression. I have been diagnosed with PTSD and now take B12, for D, and SSRIs to manage my symptoms. I encourage everyone reading this to see a doctor if you can afford it if you are struggling with something similar. I'm only horny like once every 5 days. There can be literal weeks that go by where I'm just not into it. Don't even watch porn. I sleep well, exercise 5 to 6 times a week, am not stressed, and am a guy in my late 20s. It's literally ruined relationships for me. There's nothing I can do about it. Doctor says my T levels are normal range. To everyone asking if I'm asexual. I'm interested in women, I enjoy sex, just not as frequently as is perceived as normal. So no, not asexual. Be careful and either take a lower dose at first or take it at bedtime. Magnesium in decent doses can make you drowsy. Source: female who took magnesium supplement with morning meds and an hour later felt like she roofied herself. Would not recommend.
I turned 36 this year and I decided to focus on my physical fitness, so I bought a swim club membership. The only problem was, most of the time when I go swimming, I wind up getting an ear infection. So it turns out that normal earplugs that kind of irritate your ear canal, they don't really work, they don't keep the water out. But there is an amazing kind of earplug. It's called Mack's Pillow Soft Silicone earplugs that, they feel great, they keep the water out 100%. they're reusable, and they don't irritate your ear canal at all, no issues. If you've ever had a severe ear infection, you don't want to experience that again. It can permanently damage your hearing if you're unlucky. So investing in these earplugs is definitely a good idea. Also, when my baby was crying later this year and I could not get to sleep, I used the same earplugs and they worked great. I was able to sleep right next to a crying baby. So be sure to click my affiliate link and purchase some of these Mack earplugs today.
I have a birth defect in my sternum called pectus excavatum, aka funnel chest. Look it up, it's interesting. My sternum is not shaped normal, it caves in, creating a funnel in my chest. Since I'm female, it's not entirely noticeable, but it can be felt. And I can hold a puddle of water in it. It does limit the space in my chest cavity, so I can feel when something isn't right with my heart more than most and can make my claustrophobia worse, but other than that it doesn't cause many issues. I have looked it up and the procedure to fix it doesn't seem worth it and is usually done for cosmetic reasons, so wouldn't be covered by insurance. Are you female? My mom was having what she thought was heart murmurs bad enough that her arm would cramp. She told the doctor every time she visited for a couple of years, and he basically told her that was silly and she was probably just doing too much. Then she happened to be there with my dad and he mentioned it, and the doctor immediately arranged for an EKG and imaging, a bunch of other tests. Eventually figured out she has osteophytes in her shoulder that were basically tearing into the underside of her muscles and giving her micro muscle spasms in her shoulder and around her collarbone. Sucks that such things happen, but maybe you're just the wrong type of person looking for help. My toenails kept splitting. This was the best thing to ever happen to me. I had at least 8 diagnosed disorders. I took 12 daily medications, costing $40 every day, Canadian prices. I saw about 30 specialists over the last decade, and they were pretty much stumped. About once a month, a toenail would split. For years I just cut it off and moved on. In September, my girlfriend saw this and said, "Your toenails shouldn't split that much. Or at all." So I looked it up, expecting it to be a medication side effect. It wasn't. Iron deficiency was a possibility. I ignored it initially because I'm not a woman or vegan. The other things I looked into didn't pan out, so I came back to iron deficiency, symptoms including split toenails, cold hands and feet, extreme fatigue, diagnosed in me as idiopathic hypersomnia, maybe osteoporosis, aggravated bipolar disorder, aggravated epilepsy, aggravated chronic pain, blurred vision, headaches. It's all there. I'm slowly reducing my medications in exchange for 0.05 day of iron. I sleep about 8 hours of sleep every night instead of 12 and don't need fucking speed to wake up in the morning. I've had 2 headaches since mid-October. Normally it would be closer to 30. We have an explanation for osteoporosis, so maybe I don't have to be on cancer-causing meds for life. My back pain is improving. It's a whole new goddamn world. Because my toenail split. Okay, everyone's asking about blood panels. My RBC count was high normal, my ferritin was normal. However, ferritin testing has a sensitivity of only 60. I feel that the fact that my symptoms improved on iron says that I don't have a thyroid issue. I would recommend you go to a different doctor and start the appointment with "I've been in pain for a year, I'm not interested in drugs, and if you try to give them to me I won't take them. I just want to know what's wrong and if there's a way to fix it." This is how I was finally diagnosed with scoliosis. I now handle my chronic pain with an anti-inflammatory diet and 0 medications. Might be worth looking into for you. I've never seen a more accurate description. A lot of people I've told think it's stuff like crashing or actual explosions, but it's really otherworldly and nearly impossible to explain. I can recount the noises in my head, but if you asked me what they actually sound like I wouldn't be able to put it into words.
Hey guys, do you ever have a problem getting to sleep at night? Well, I've got the magic pill to cure your insomnia. Much like you, I used to twist and turn all night. But then I discovered that you can take melatonin and Valerian Root together to get a good night's sleep every single night. I've been taking it every night by for years and years. I've been taking Valerian and melatonin, and this is my life hack to get a good night's sleep and vivid dreams every night. So be sure to click my affiliate links, and I will give you the gift of a good night's sleep.